Welcome, everybody. I can't see you, but I think you can see us. So this is online open day, and it will be last about an hour or maybe shorter, but we'll have loads of opportunities for questions, especially to both Marianne and Esme. Maybe we can start a brief introduction first. So my name is Frendrit, and I'm the course leader for MA 3D Computer Animation. So we have Mariana.
Hi, so I am a recent graduate from the MA 3D animation course. I've graduated last December, and yeah, I'll just walk you through my experience at UAL today. Yeah.
Hiya, and I'm Esme.
Esme.
Hiya, I'm the same as Mariana, graduated in December, and we're here to help you want to come here.
Yeah, hopefully.
You're definitely in luck. We have, two of our brightest students from last year graduating cohort, and they will be showing their show reels and some of the work they did for the course, and along with some other students' work as well. So do ask away if you have any questions. And right, so that's me. That's my website. Feel free to have a look around, and you can find my email on my website as well to get in touch if you have further questions. So why London College of Communication? Our college has a rich history and has been a protagonist of the development of the creative industries in the UK. And we have industry-focused courses in the School of Design, Media and Screen. So our courses are under the Moving Image and Digital Art program, which are under the Screen School in LCC. We are located in a vibrant, diverse and fun part of London in Elephant and Castle, and excellent transport to loads of different galleries and great diverse cultural places. 6 colleges, 1 university. LCC is part of the University of the Arts London, and we ranked number 2 in the world for arts and design education by QS World Rankings, and has a global influence and reach across international creative industries. And many of the world's most renowned fashion designers, artists, publishers, filmmakers, animators, and all studied here. Screen School. And Screen School at London College of Communication encourages collaboration across different disciplines to mirror the real world creative environment. And we often have both creative outputs and industry-oriented practices and workshops. And our courses include film, television, animation, sound arts, and etc. So MA 3D computer animation. This is a practice-led course, and it also explores both the theory and practices of digital 3D animation in film, television, games, and interactive applications. And you know from my own background as well, I am an installation and computational artist. I also have animation digital media background. So one of my aims is also to broaden this discipline into multiple threads that could really emphasize the 3D skills in various different industries and disciplines. So I think, we're going to talk about a little bit of the application and what we're looking for from your profile and portfolio. So don't be discouraged if you're from different disciplines in the industry, and it's all very encouraged, and I think often it's very valuable to have that experience. So if you're not a traditional trained animator or never experienced in moving image fields, no worries to that. Do also apply for it. So application profile, often we get profiles such as stop motion, 2D animation, traditional animation, people from, animation background. Like I mentioned, I'm really open-minded and really look forward to see applicants from different disciplines. So do feel free, and then do not feel discouraged. We do students often have experience in producing either animation work. So some of the skills that we might be looking for, such as Maya, 3D Max, Blender, ZBrush, Houdini, etc., and demonstrating an understanding of appropriate tool used to evolve beginner standard. But I think, written text sounds a bit scary, what it means by a beginner, what it means by an experienced user. So I think as long as you have really good ideas, as long as you have experiences, and that could highlight your aspiration, enthusiasm, and passion for your future career and what you want to achieve by attending this course, I don't think you should be discouraged by any of those criteria. Learning experience. The university has been proactive in responding to government guidance, and then we have lots of health and safety measures in place, after pandemic, and a mix of on-campus and online activities. One of the best things that I think came out after pandemic is that we often do record our sessions, so you can learn after the in-person session with lecturers and tutors, and you can review those contents and at your own pace. So that's one of the good things that we inherited from a challenging time. And by the way, all of the photos you see on the left-hand side, most of them are students' work. So, and some of the works are on the graduation showcase on the website. You can search graduation showcase UAL and you can find them. You can also search the UAL computer animation course page, find lots of students' work from there. This is a diagram for a 15-month course. So our course is 15 months. We'll start from the autumn term in October, and including 4 weeks and Easter and summer. So it might be a little bit difficult to see from this diagram, but I've listed all the units that you would be undertaking if you join the program. So 3D animation fundamentals, design for animation narrative structure, film language, advanced and experimental computer animation techniques, and collaboration units, independent study period over the summer break, and final major projects and thesis. So the summer break is not a unit. I just listed it here because it does take quite a bit of time in your study period. So I just listed here, but we do have 5 units. I can talk a little bit more in details later, and feel free to ask any questions you have towards any of the units. And Marianne and Esme, they also have a very in-depth experience. They just went through all the units and they know how to, get really good grades, and they also know how to create some fantastic work just by working towards the learning outcomes, as well as utilizing the resources, asking questions. So yeah, do feel free to ask those questions. Facilities, that we have 3D workshop and creative technology lab, and college shop, digital space, gallery space, kids room, library services, etc. So there are a fantastic range of creative facilities on site in LCC, and I think you can also use the libraries in across 6 different colleges. And if you need other services and facilities, we often are able to help you to get in touch with other departments in another college, and perhaps those are the things you should maybe bear in mind before you join the course, because those are the tools you'll be using. And we also have really high-end render farm, so we have lots of Alienware and PCs you can access remotely. You can work from home, and it's pretty quick when you wanted to do a bulk of work and render and catching up your assignments and deadlines. We have a green screen lab and motion capture. We recently purchased a very expensive, I think around 50K mocap and suits, and some of the portable ones as well, so you can take away to record your motion capture data in a real world context for various purposes for your projects. And 3D assets, so we have course budgets that we are able to purchase some of the materials and assets for you if that's something that would be really helpful in your project, and either that's in person, either that's individual or group work. So collaboration, collaborative projects from an important part. This is an important part of the course, and from of a course philosophy as well. You will be working with external industry partners as well as other courses within LCC, such as MA Games Design, MA Animation, VFX, MA VR and illustration visual media. So we often have this cross collaboration with other courses, and this year we're doing something very different. So if anybody who's in London, feel free to join us next Wednesday. We have a collaborative fair from 3 p.m. If you can't get into the building because it's not too open to public, but if you do want to attend, drop me an email. I can register you on the reception, so you can get in and see everybody's collaborative work as part of the collaborative fair. So we have over around 120 students, and we have 5 courses. This is such a great effort, and for everybody to see each other's work, and then the fruition of the collaborative network. I think if you're very interested in collaboration, working with internal, external collaborators, this is definitely one of the very interesting units you enjoy, because we often organize activities, taking students out to galleries, and often, provide environments and chances for students to network and to get to know each other a little bit more, so you can utilize each other's skill sets and disciplinary knowledge. And for instance, we did the frameless visits this year as part of the collaboration unit. We went to Marble Archway, and it's such a fantastic immersive experience. So throughout, and we could, it's such a great example for them to experience work that exhibited in a professional environment, and also taking inspiration from the field trip. And we also had another field trip to a very prestigious animation studio, DNAG. And next term, we're going to plan for a forest trip to somewhere. Remains to be seen. Connected to industry, so DNAG I mentioned, and we also had lots of industry people come in and do talks. For instance, this one was from Untold Studio. They came in to do a presentation to all the students. They also, showcased how you could apply for jobs with them for your career development. Previous collaborative projects have also involved students being mentored by animation supervisor from the 3rd floor, and we have tutors from Union VFX. So they come in, do workshops, and teach you the industry standard and most up-to-date skills. Students' work. So I suppose without further ado, we should just cut to the point and have a look. Mariana's work first. So Mariana, I will hand over to you, and I will move the slides. So tell me when you want me to jump to the next slide.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone again. So I'm Mariana, and today I'll just walk you through just my experiences, and I will share with you some work I've done during the course, and I'll give you some advice as well. So yeah, could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, let's start with my experience and gains. So according to the first point, so throughout the course, I've had the chance to experiment in various fields, both working on practical projects and also during classes. And we also had several workshops and lectures related to various CGI topics. And I personally found particularly interesting to apply 3D animation in a VR project I worked into for the collaborative unit we've done in term 2. And also during both of the projects in term 2 and for the final major project, I've had the chance to explore my abilities and combine existing skills with new ones. And in fact, I think that the great opportunity really that is behind a master's degree is the occasion, to further explore yourself as a 3D artist, and to better focus on what is the personal path that you want to undertake. And as a result, I have now a clearer idea on my career path. And so yeah, I'm now more aware of the industry system and pipeline. So since I have interfaced with different stages of the industry pipeline during various lectures, and I've gained a clear idea on how the industry system works. And lastly, I had the chance to interface with different teaching and learning methods, which has stimulated me to a kind of active learning and in general helped me to grow as an artist, nurturing my creativity. So yeah, next slide is about my showreel. So I put together some works that I've created during the course, and yeah, so let's get on. Yeah, so as you were able to see, so there are some bits from my final major project, which is the Van Gogh style of animation I've created. There is some body mechanics and some cycles, in that case a walking cycle. We also did a couple of sessions of match move and then yeah, I've made that camera track as well, as you were able to see, and also some of my other projects and the models that I've actually created with Esme for our collaborative unit in the VR experience, the VR project we worked on. So yeah, last slide, some advice. So looking back, looking back at my master journey, I've collected, looking back at my master journey, I feel I can share with you some advice, which I really hope that will be, very useful for your own path if you decided to take this journey with UAL. So yeah, in every project you work on, keep in mind that you will probably use it for a showreel, which will be in the future useful for your own portfolio and to introduce yourself during some applications. So and also find why you are at UL and your course, find the areas you enjoy the most. So in every project that you work on, just take those as a chance to deepen the field you want to specialize on, because by practicing several techniques, you will be able to discover which one you prefer the most. And again, make the most out of the facilities. There are lots of spaces, lots of labs where you can work on, both remotely or on campus. So, and also make sure you also use the all the 3D libraries they provide you with, and all the software you may need. And yeah, and most importantly, just enjoy yourself and don't be scared to create. which I think is one of my most important thing. I always try to keep in mind myself as well. And yeah, that was it for me.
Thank you so much, Mariana. That's really, really helpful and such an in-depth advice and some work, really great as well. We will have more time with Mariana later, asking questions, and she can tell you more about some of the experience she had and more work if you want. So let's go to Esme.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm Esme and I just finished this course. And during my time here, like Mariana, worked on a variety of projects. So me and Mariana together, we collaborated with some VR students on this really cool VR project. And I also worked on some experimental animation, like really trying to push the boundaries of what can you do in 3D. And my final major project was a 3-minute documentary. So if you go to the next slide, and hopefully it won't play. So expanding on some of these projects, I have a show reel which showcases some of the work I did here at LCC. It's been really great for my own personal sort of creative stimulation and style. And one of the main projects that I completed here was like an experimental stop motion-y style animation about 2 skeletons who are having like this dance battle. And it pays homage to like old black and white cartoons. And my final major project, as I said, a 3D animated documentary where I interviewed like several of my friends about their experience in lockdown and sort of transformed this into anthropomorphized houses to sort of represent habitat and space. And Brenda, if you press play for me, here's the show reel.
I've heard about the situation in China before, but I didn't even imagine it could affect the rest of the world.
Right, exactly the same. Just obviously trying to figure out where your setup was and like where you could stack up boxes for you put your laptop thing in your house.
I was in Canterbury. I was at my university.
I was in an airport taking a plane back home.
This is my first shipwreck. Just let me live in the moment, would you? Just experience it.
Perfect, thank you for showing that. So the main things I got out of the university here, I would say the software here is really good. You have use of Maya, Unity, Unreal, which was completely new to me, and it's a really good experience to have, especially in the 3D industry. And there's a motion capture suit, as Friendwin mentioned earlier, and you guys have a nice new one, so it should be really exciting for you. And my favorite thing here was the 3D printing. Me and Mariana recently for our final showcase made little 3D prints of some of our models, and I got really excited and I booked it twice. And yeah, it's really great facilities for pretty much everything 3D. The library facilities here are great because you have access to all the different campuses libraries. Like I would use LCC's one day and then I go to Central St. Martin's because they all have different stock as well. And if you don't want to travel there by yourself, you can order books from different libraries to LCC. So it's a nice, easy transition. And also the library staff are lovely. I don't know if it's still Leo who's our course librarian, but he was super helpful because I was literally like, I really need this book for my thesis. He got it basically in 2 days for me. Yeah, they're really approachable, really lovely library staff, and I have very high regards for the UAL libraries. There's also great opportunity to collaborate on this course. I'd never touched a VR headset in my life before this, and it was really great to just put it on and learn how VR works. And obviously it's really employable to have that because it links with games, and you have loads more stuff for your portfolio that way. And I think some people in our course even collaborated with fashion students and VFX students, and it was just really interesting to see all the variety of work that was coming out. And I think the main takeaway, like Mariana says, this place is great for really exploring what your personal artistic style is. They really just kind of let you do what you want rather than forcing you to adhere to something. And that's something I really liked about this university. And if you go to the next slide, please. So I have some application advice for you if you haven't applied yet. And that is to make your personal statement really course specific. Like, look at our module guide and think, what about this course really stands out to me? Why do I want to do it? Because I think that's going to be the selling point really for your personal statement. Also about your experiences and why you want to do 3D computer animation. I think if you're really passionate, you know, it's a great place for you. And I'd also say that have your career goal in mind, what you want to get out of this course as well when you go to write it. And I think it will be great. And your show reel, obviously, I came from a course that's also 2D, stop motion, and 3D mixed together. So say you've come from a 2D course, make sure you have a lot of your animation in there that shows your skill in like the principles and everything like that, and put a lot of headings to show if you say you worked in a group project, which bit did you do, and just keep it very on point, I would say, with the labeling, just like I did this. This is the animation I did. Or if you do visual effects, I added visual effects like breakdowns to my show reel, which was, I think, useful in getting my place here. And if you have any queries or you're a bit lost or worried about it, you can feel free to email me, ask me any questions. There's my email on the slide here. And I'm happy to answer anything else after this presentation if you're a bit scared to ask questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Esme. That's brilliant, fantastic work. And I agree, yeah, Leo, our librarian, is such a lovely, lovely guy. He's just constantly encouraging everybody to buy books, and they will have budget for it, buy whatever you want. And they're just so encouraging and then very, very helpful. So I think there's so many very brilliant supporting staff in library services and disability services and student services. They're all just around in the building and then very supportive of all the courses. So I think that's also one of the benefit of studying here. What brilliant, thank you, Esme. And then we will have time to come back for questions. While we're here, I think it's probably easier to look at the some of the other students' work, and then we can go over to the portfolios and application advice, and we can finish off with some questions. So I've prepared a few videos from some of the students' work. Let me find this one. Shut down. I think this is a collaborative work for the collaboration unit.
Attention. The perpetrators of many reported injuries in recent days have been tentatively identified as domestic robots. Experts have detected a robot virus that is highly contagious, but only spreads to Rodot brand robots. So if you have this brand of robot in your home, turn it off quickly or just stay away from it.
one of students' FMP showreel. And that's by Guanzhe, I think. And then one of the other students' final major project by Shirao.
でもね、たまには一息ついて疲れてるなら腰掛けてビルに隠れた空見上げてよ歩き出すのはそれからで追われて慌てる息をつく暇もないほど次から次へと回るせわしないこの毎日で気づかずに重りをつけてる慣れてく痛みに
And then last but not least, there's one more work by Kai Wen. So well, as you can see, that's such a huge, wide range of work that students were doing in Marina's work and Nesmi's work, and then everybody else's, including work that collaborate with VR, VFX, and then work that can be put into a more traditional sense of animation or 2D, 3D combination and fusion. So I think that's just wide range of work, and then also really encouraging students to step out of their comfort zone and explore things that they wouldn't necessarily explore. So Postgraduate Hub, the Hub is designed to provide information to students and transitioning into their MA course and provide career and employment advice for existing students and provide ongoing teaching and learning support and guidance. I think more information can be found on the website as well. Just introducing a few very handy services that LCC and our course are providing. So graduate residency program, successful graduates receive support from LCC, including funding, access to our creative community, expert support, and the use of office, meeting technical space, a industry mentoring scheme. So there are industry mentors come in to guide students and then support their CV and showreel and provide advice for them how to create a closer link to their study and their future industry experience, or maybe in a more creative environment as well. So applications, and to make an application to most of the courses at LCC, you are asked to provide personal statements and current and previous education qualification details in your CV. Maybe you have employment history if you had a gap year, or you had if you graduated before but had some experience in working in various different fields. Personal statement and portfolio. Application deadline is the second round is up until 3rd April. So more information can be found on the course page as well. A lot of videos I just showed, you can find them on the course page. Portfolio. Your portfolio should have examples of image-led and visual work. I think Esme mentioned, and both Mariana mentioned as well earlier, just keep it simple, keep it quite straightforward with titles, obviously, and with summary of the work that you did. Relevant works would be great. Then you can tell us how you can utilize those skills and take it further, and experiment it with it. You can also showcase us some of the work that you did before, which maybe seemed irrelevant, but there are always ways you can connect them. So transferable skills and things that you think you could utilize them in your future career development and in your research interests. So talk about a little bit of those things if they are somewhat relevant. Best to contain an animation showreel because or any sort of video format, because that's more visually appealing and it's more straightforward for us to see what you've done. Include minimum 5 projects and self-initiated projects, group works as well. Elaborate what you did. Personal statement, show us strong interest in subject, demonstrating why you want to join the course. I think it works for both ways, for you to identify what exactly you want to learn. For instance, looking at the number of units you will be undertaking, what you will be learning, if it's a good environment, a suitable environment for you. Also for us to identify whether this is a suitable place for you to come here, to learn the things you want to learn, to master level. I think somewhat is more also self-directed, and then you're going to research and you're going to learn a lot by learning how to learn it, and then that skills will follow you in whatever the developmental stage in your career in the future, and those will come really, really handy and helpful. So scholarships and fundings. I'm not an expert on this, so you should be checking on the website. Do have a further look, and they always have some opportunities for students, home students, overseas students, European students too. So do double check this and find relevant email to get in touch. Last but not least, let's open the floor for questions. So, any other general inquiries, you can always email me. And we have also a big team behind to help you with relevant inquiries. The one I just mentioned, fundings, or maybe application inquiries, interview inquiries, and other things, admission, accommodation, etc. So that's the last slides. Maybe we should open the floor for questions.
Hello, I'm here to ask you some questions. If we start with Mariana and Esme, I've got a couple of questions for you. If you wouldn't mind telling us about your favourite project to work on throughout the course.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like as I mentioned before, I'd say that I like I would say like I like all of them, but mostly I would say the collaborative one, because I think that one was quite informative. Because yeah, again, I just got acquainted with a whole new world, which is VR, and I think in terms of work for future, it is very useful because you don't necessarily just have to know your own skill. For example, in this case, my case, 3D animations, because you have to know how they work together. So that was a good, a good way for me to learn that. And definitely also like one of the top projects was my final major project, because I got to work on a subject that I really like, which is Van Gogh. But I also had the time to experiment with textures, also not just animation, because I also like modeling and texturing models. So that was, a chance for me to go in depth with that as well. Yeah. You.
I also liked the collaborative module, but I think my favorite was definitely my final major project. And I think having the summer holiday as well really helps, because it gives you like a few months to just figure out exactly what you want to do. It's a really good time to experiment, do research. And I really liked having complete control of a project, because on my BA, I did a lot of group work. So it was really nice to just go, okay, what do I want to do? And then I just sat down and did it for a few months. And I think this university really helps. If basically if you want to make a 3-minute film like I did, you can do. Or if you want to make a 30-second like music video like Cheryl did, you can do that. And I really like that about this place. So
That's perfect. Thank you. And you mentioned your BA. Would you guys mind telling people what you studied before you came to UAL and why you decided to go into MA 3D animation?
So I did my BA in digital arts at the University of Kent, and so I went throughout the 3 years programming, processing or graphic design, and also digital effects and character animation. I think that made me, because I didn't really know what to do, what career to take, and that helped me. But I think that I needed like an in-depth and more focused education on animation. Therefore, I chosen to study at UAL. Yeah, and I've attended an open day as well, just as you're doing now. Yeah, I was really, struck by the facilities and what they were offering to the students as well. And again, it might seem like not, not quite straightforward, but I think the fact that they let you work on your own project. I mean, not your own project, but I mean, they let you choose what to work on your project. Is a really big thing, especially again if you're going to use the work for your own personal showreel when you do applications for future jobs. So yeah.
Esme, would you like to talk a little bit more as well?
yeah, sorry. So I think I mentioned earlier, I came from a BA Visual Effects and Animation course at Falmouth University. And there was a very strong focus on, I mean, I'd come from a strong animation background, but I really wanted to focus solely on CG because we had a variety of lessons down there in different mediums. And it's been really great just having unlimited access to, I mean, you can work from home as well remotely from the university computers. You have Maya, Mudbox, all the good stuff really. And yeah, it's really great just to focus on exactly what you want to do, I think. is if it is 3D.
That's perfect, thank you. One final question for you guys, Mariana and Esme, and then we will ask Brenda some questions. If you could sum up your experience at LCC in a few words, what would it be?
So, I'm not really good at summarizing, as you may have noticed, but I'll pick 3 words, you know, like those interviews. I'll say fun, because it was also fun, informative, and it's always the third word. Wow. No. Okay, no, just erase that one. I mean, it's not. It's just our whole mood, like enthusiasm. I don't know. It makes me think of that. Okay. You go.
Thanks. I would say, to summarize the course, I'd say it's a great way to study exactly what you want to do in one of the best cities in the world. And you can just kind of walk basically to the Thames from the campus and everything like that. You're surrounded by lovely creative people also. So there's my quick summary.
That's great, thank you. I think you're better at summarizing than you think you are, Mariana. So just a few questions then for Brenda. What if someone has applied with only the experience in graphic design and motion graphics? Can they still apply to the course?
Yeah, absolutely. I would highly encourage it, because I do really value and the skills that you have from your undergrads, or maybe, you know, previous professional experiences, motion graphics and communication design, fashion, or even in science. I think that's just so much interface and agency there, that people are more and more willing to collaborate and mixing their skill sets together. I think sometimes when you come from very different fields, you get very different mindsets in working towards even the same objective. That creativity comes bursting out when they get a window of, you know, collaborating with different people. So I do really highly encourage, if you do come from those fields, apply for it, and you know, think about how you can use those skills for the creative projects you want to produce in this course. And then I think one of the most important thing as well, both Mariana and Esme mentioned, is enthusiasm, and you are surrounded by creative people, and how you can create opportunities for yourself is so important. The inspirations are everywhere, the opportunities and the collaborations are everywhere. So if you have those skills, utilize it.
Perfect, that's great. We have a few more questions that have come in. Could you explain a little bit what the difference is between this course and the MA Visual Effects course, please?
That's a good question. So we do have, you know, VFX, VR animation and 3D animation in this program. So I think we have quite different focus in this discipline. So I think 3D, that we are talking about, you know, animation. We're talking about rigging, lighting, modeling, rendering, and body mechanics. And with me now leading this course since a year ago, so the aim of the course is now broadened into more towards the digital arts field as well. So we're trying to emphasize the animation skills as the core, and then branching out to provide, you know, create and produce talents that can work in both industry, like traditional animation industry, as well as creative industry. So I I think that's probably the main difference. And then VFX is brilliant because they focus on different, fields, and they teach nuke. I think I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, but we teach very different things, and then you can probably find out the software they teach and then the knowledge and for theory as well from the course page. On both course pages, you can see the difference.
Yes, that's great. I would encourage you to have a look at the course page for some differences between the courses as well. A couple more questions. If someone doesn't have an extensive portfolio, perhaps a few beginner projects, what would you recommend they include in their portfolio?
Really good question. So I think we also often get applicants that come from one discipline, but they want to change to another discipline. Perhaps master is the way to go for it, because you do often get opportunities, and then we provide fundamental skills in the first term as well. So I think emphasize on both portfolio and personal statements in that case, and personal statements should be one of the important things that you should be focusing on, because you want to tell us what you really want to do, and you want to be candid and honest about your skills that you have. Just tell us how passionate you are, and when we get into the interview stage, then that's another stage that you can tell us how much you really wanted to get into this field, and so much so more than the skills you perhaps gained from the undergrads. And then between the application, between the undergrads and the application stage, there's also a big window. We often see that you might come from the different backgrounds, but some students are very passionate. They start learning some of the skills on their own. There's so much online tutorials, even YouTube. You can learn so much skills per se, so you can demonstrate that you really want this by practice on your own, showcasing the skills you can gather on your own. Then that's also a great way to demonstrate your enthusiasm.
Perfect, thank you. And we've got 3 more questions and then we will conclude. So what does a typical learning week look like on the course?
That's a good question. We have it varies quite a lot. So we have 4 terms, but in term 1 and 2 and 3, it's very intense. We have a lot of sessions, compulsory sessions and optional ones. Most compulsory sessions, for instance, in term 4 animation fundamentals, we have 1 lecture teaching it, and design for animation narrative, and we have another theory tutor teaching it. So that would be about 3 or 3 hours perhaps. So we have different tutors leading different units. So term 1 and 2 and 3, and then most of the sessions are within maybe 3 days. So that provides opportunities for you to pursue something else, or maybe having a part-time job at the moment in the meantime. Also maybe because it's a quite intense course, a lot of time you should be spending on practicing it and populating your blog documentation, make a record of your learning journey. And then in term 4, it's very self-directed. I think both Mariana and Esme earlier mentioned as well. It's really important for you to really consolidate that skills and then start thinking about how to make something, a comprehensive project happen based on everything you learned and the research that you put into, and combine the theory and practice as well, because we also had a research sort of focused project for one of the advanced and experimental units. So the term 4 is really important because it crosses over summer, and then you have 10 weeks to embellish your work, and then finally you get to organize your own degree show, which this year I think along with other people, including Mariana and Esme, they did a fantastic job organizing the degree show. We even had a panel by the end of the show. So Cheryl, one of the students, I showcased the work earlier, also on the panel with everybody here. So I think it just various different learning curves, and it depends on the units. And if I summarize, so it's slightly different. The most teaching sessions will be in the first 2 or 3 terms, and then you get to quite a long period of time self-directing your project.
That's great, thank you. And then one final question before we conclude. Outside of their studies, when they're working from home, how would the software work? Would they need to download and pay for the software themselves, or is it included in the tuition fee?
So you don't need to, if you work from home, I think you can either remote access studio computers. So basically on all the classrooms, they have all the software that we needed to use. So, you know, the fundamental ones, animation, Maya, Houdini, 3ds Max, and Cinema 4D and stuff like that. So anything that we have on the studio computers, so you can remote access and use it. And if that's not where you want to access it, then there are sometimes licenses floating around that we can maybe give out to students to use on case by case basis. But mostly you can just remote access and use the software you need remotely at home.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving such an in-depth and thorough presentation, Mariana, Esme, and Frindred. If you wanted to just say a few final words, I will then conclude the online open day.
Brilliant. I think just thank you everybody for joining in, and I hope this is very insightful. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. And you know, I think Mariana and Esme did a fantastic job just giving you a taste of what it's like and what your next 15 months could be. It's very, you know, I think it's a very exciting journey that not many people, they do multiple masters. So I think this is such an important journey in your life, that 15 months you're spending here in London, in this such a vibrant city, and learning new knowledge and meeting these creative people. So I do really appreciate that I can get to spend with students, and then quite often that, you know, such memorable journeys with all the cohorts every year. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the next cohort. And then if you have questions, please do not hesitate and get in touch.